Welcome to Growth Layer, an interview series that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build in health and family. Today, I'm joined by Colette Dong, founder, CEO, and co-founder of the Ness, a dance-based movement method, blending dance with the science of functional fitness, both on and off the trampoline. Welcome, Colette, and I'm excited to dive in.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We were able to catch up before this, especially just not having been as engaged in the last year. And it sounds like there's been a lot going on and a lot bubbling. I think before we get into your newest studio location, I thought it'd be great for folks who are listening to this to hear about the origin story and the inspiration behind how you found the Ness and what really sparked that.
My co-founder, Ali Giampolo, and I, so we both grew up dancing. We were ballerinas. We did contemporary modern. We went to school for dance and dance teaching, dance science and exercise science. And so we were performing in the city, and that's how we met each other. And we were in a show at the time that was very high impact. So we were kind of running from stage to stage, jumping on boxes, climbing walls. It was very kind of circus meets immersive theater. And we wanted something that was low impact, but not lacking intensity to kind of cross train the show, because dance inherently can be a little anaerobic, which means like you sprint basically. So you're on stage for 3 minutes and then you're backstage changing costumes, or you're learning a combination and then you're on the side watching. And so we wanted that cardio push, but we didn't want to work against our training. And so we were both kind of teaching fitness at the time and found a studio that was using this trampoline. And we were like, we're obsessed with this thing and this method, and it feels so good and it felt so good in our joints. And so when it was time to kind of figure out our next steps post performance, we were like, we need to bring the trampoline to the masses. Like, everyone needs to know about this. I know it looks funny, but the benefits are crazy, and like we need to kind of design a method around it. And that's how it was born.
Love that. And it's been how many years now?
We are 7. We're in our 7th year. We opened in 2019. Yeah.
Time flies. I actually had it in my head that it was 5, but it makes sense because I've known you for a couple of years. So there you go.
I have it in my head that it's 1. So
that's how much activity there has been for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because my older son, when he started to go to this like trampoline park, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then I started bouncing with him and I said, wow, this is much harder work than I realized.
It's really hard. And I think because it's so visually engaging and playful, people think it's going to be a really easy workout, or it's just like something women in their 40s do to keep, like they'll do anything to not work out and like get on it, and you'll see. Yeah. So the studies show, NASA did a study on it, and they used it to kind of transition astronauts from space back to gravity. And so it's kind of that intermediary of that like zero gravity sensation to build the bone density. But when they did these studies, they found that it's 3x running. So whatever energy would burn in 30 minutes running, you do in 10 on the trampoline. So it's an extremely efficient tool, basically, for people that are busy. Like you only have 10 minutes, you want to get your heart rate up. Like she's your girl. The trampoline is your girl for that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And less impact and stress on the joints. Yes. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that has been getting more awareness in terms of the low stress, high impact value of the trampoline. So I'm curious, actually, since you've launched 7 years ago, what have you seen shift in terms of acceptance and awareness around trampoline based workouts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are more willing to try. And I think as longevity in the healthcare space in the health and wellness space becomes more of a topic, right? Like we're all of a sudden seeing, people have been studying longevity for a while, but I think it's coming more to the forefront. What are we doing to feel better as we age? And what are we doing to extend our life? And so people are really looking for workouts that they can do into their 60s, into their 70s, that they even started in their 30s and 40s. And so people are a little more accepting of that, of the low impact. They're more understanding that this is a marathon and not a sprint. So they're looking for modalities that aren't, I'm going so hard on the treadmill, I'm doing so many, high intensity training. This is the only way to get results. And as women, specifically, that's what we were told also. You should do 3 hours of cardio. Like that's it, like you don't look at a weight, don't pick up a weight, like so much cardio. This is like what you should be doing now. And then I think the space is transformed into, we can actually do less. We can get a little more for are like a little more bang for our buck in terms of what we're doing. Going so intense maybe isn't also great. I think there's a lot more with hormones too now, like in knowledge of what specifically with your blood and your hormone and what's going on with you, what kind of workout do you need? And so I think people are really starting to understand that more and understand the individuality of of each program.
100%. And actually, I was just talking with another founder around the growing awareness around the space of longevity and how that definition has broadened significantly, I would say, over the last 3 years, like 2 to 3 years. And I can see how a fitness solution like yours really fits into that and can actually work with the larger scheme of things.
Yeah. For sure. And I think the way that Allie's designed it is she makes it so fun, the method on the trampoline, in that we bring our dance roots into it. And so it doesn't feel like I'm going to work out. It's like balance is my hobby and this is my thing. And I'm going to go learn my new combination and also work on my flash memory and also combat Alzheimer's by learning choreography. And it feels like dance. Like we never had to try to work out because we had dance. We were going to dance. We had our friends at dance. And that was it. It was never like, oh, go to the gym and get on elliptical. And so movement has been part of our lives for such a long time that it was never hard for us to incorporate it in adulthood. But a lot of people struggle when they come out of playing a sport in high school, or maybe they didn't play a sport at all. Maybe they did music or something else, but they have to then be like, oh, I need to take care of myself now as I age. And they struggle to do that because it's like working out is really difficult for them. It's not something to look forward to, but they just haven't found the thing that works, I think, for them.
That makes
makes them happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. So what's a sweet spot, whether when someone is participating live, in person, or online, what would you say is a sweet spot length of class that you can find a difference or see a difference pretty quickly?
With exercise, consistency is better, I feel, than length. And that's just my personal professional opinion. If you can get 10 minutes in and you can do it every day, or you can do it 7 days a week, and that's how you're going to build the habit, I think that is more important than trying to go hard and say, I need to do 45 minutes today. And I don't have time to fit that into my schedule, but I need to do it. And then you're feeling guilty that you didn't do it, but you can get the benefits of movement and trampoline specifically because it is so effective in 10 minutes. Our classes range between 10 and 45 minutes online, and they're all 50 minutes in person. So that's kind of what we recommend, just to like get the combos down and get warmed up. And we also incorporate some strength to make it really complete workout. But
okay.
Yeah.
10. I mean, I know that for busy professionals, like if we can get that level of efficiency in 10 minutes, like that sparks so much interest and curiosity, right? Because it's hard to get a lot in 10 minutes.
Yeah. It is it's like truly life-changing. It's like, it opens up all of your time and you're like, wow, I was expending an hour walking the treadmill every day. And now my heart rate's up there and I feel good. In 10, you're like, wow, what am I going to do with the time back?
Who do you find is your most recurring customer or client, whether it's group sessions or privates? I'm wondering if there's, a sweet spot demographic, or is it pretty big range now that this type of workout is more widely known and accepted?
Yeah, we have quite a big range between 25, 35, 35, 45, and then we have 55 plus for sure, people that have been with us starting in their 50s, they're now 65, they're still doing it. So while classes, I feel, lend themselves to women in general, I think female identifying people are a little more open to class experience, I find, than men. So our demo does skew mainly female, and they're also more open to dance and coordination. Doesn't mean that men can't do it. It's like extremely great for men, and we have men in our ecosystem for sure, but mainly women. It feels a little like for the girls by the girls, because we're all like jamming out together and building a combo and like doing our show time and having fun in the studio. The community is really great, and online as well. But I would say there is a personality thread outside of that, because we skew so large, and like your typical marketing demo, you would say like income, age range, sex. But for us, high performing individuals is we see across the board personality wise. And because trampoline is not going to be easy your first time. And so it's a type of personality that is willing to be bad at something, willing to fail at something, and then willing to say, I'm going to get better at this. I don't know why I want to get better at this, but I'm going to keep going and I'm going to do it, and we see that across the board, and we see it in their jobs. They're successful in their work. They're successful in their family lives. They seem to be balancing it all. It's this type of like very motivated and successful individual that we see. And they want to get the combos. They want to be challenged every day to do something different and to feel that success. I
love that. Yes. And that also really makes sense with just the efficient nature of this.
Mm-hmm.
So that totally resonates and clicks. So I get that.
Yeah.
Tell us about, I'd love to kind of understand where you're seeing the growth. You've got in studio, you've got online, you've got privates, and I get that you've also been so focused in the last year on opening the larger studio location. So tell us a little bit more about that and just kind of where growth has been, let's say in the last year, and then kind of where you expect to see it going as well.
Our digital platform and our online, so our app and our online classes and our pre-filmed classes are absolutely where we're targeting for growth and where we've seen the most growth. So, at the end of the day, fitness is service business, right? We're executing the classes. And so you can only scale as far as your time goes. And although we started in person in New York with our clientele, when we launched our online app, we just saw it take off like crazy, which we were not. I was like, you cannot bottle this in-person experience. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get on the camera. I don't want to film the thing. I was like, I don't want to do this at all. And as soon as we saw how many people were willing to try it from home, and I couldn't wrap my head around, I was like, how are we going to teach these people from home to do this thing? And we found that people were so much more willing to try it at home in an intimate, private setting. And that has become like our most major revenue stream for growth. And it's allowed us to even grow into, our new space, our new studio. And it's allowed us to reach so many more people, and it's allowed us to teach so many more people because I'm here with you, but 200 people are probably doing my video this morning. It's 11:30, a late workout. And so it just optimizes our time in terms of being able to execute the actual class. And so that's where we've seen the most growth. That's been great. And also in person, there's only a certain amount of times people want to work out typically, right? So for a fitness business, you're always fighting against, how can I optimize the 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. range and then the 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. range? And how can I get as many people in the room during that time? Or how can I, break out as many rooms as I can so I can fit as many people into my space? So that's always the game you're playing. And eventually you will come up against, unless you expand physically, you're going to cap out fairly soon if you're successful. Whereas the potential of online is just unlimited.
That's right. If you're willing to share, what's the breakdown in terms of membership percentage between in-person and online, if you have that? Yeah.
We were obviously more 80-20. And during the years, we've been kind of holding at 70-30 digital to in-person. We just opened up our new physical studios, and now we're going to go more 60-50 for sure. But we opened our new studio because when we started, we didn't plan necessarily on everything that we've been able to accomplish thus far, which I think is an interesting part of growth. Sometimes the growth finds you versus when you're trying so hard to grow, kind of like growing tall. I mean, I'm sure your kids, they can will themselves to get taller, but it's not going to happen until it all, is supposed to happen.
Yes.
So we basically had just one studio that we started in Tribeca, one space. And we were fighting, again, trying to optimize the time of the one space. So we would have to cancel classes when we'd want to film content. We would have to only offer certain off-peak private training times because those are fighting against classes. We would need to do our live stream, do our meetings. So there was a lot happening from this one space, and they were all fighting against each other. And so we were like, okay, we need to reset this because we need to be able to film content while we're teaching a class, while a private is happening, and take a phone call. And so we were like, okay, it's time to move. So of recent years, in the last 2 years, it was focusing on just kind of pressing the restart button in our physical space. That's also doubling down as our content filming space and where we can operate, from there. And then our plans for future growth are continuing to build the app-based content and the online content, because that is the most scalable piece.
That makes sense. And also makes sense that it's been shifting more 60-50, especially with your in-person location, which is great as well.
Yeah. for sure. That's where our community started, and it's still great energy. And we can, and fitness is a lot of word of mouth too. So like we continue to have that experience, and people that do online come visit us, and they're like, oh, I made it to the mothership. And then they go back home and we see them, and it's like great.
Yeah. Well, maybe let's take some moments for you to brag. I'd love to maybe unpack what you believe and what you have seen your differentiation is, what you've created with the Ness versus, say, other competitors or other similar type workout, fitness, dance solutions out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about the low impact, right? Yeah. So it's low impact, but it's not lacking intensity. And I think when you specifically think about it in a home use case, the trampoline is a much more approachable home piece of equipment from a price point perspective and a space perspective. So we retail at $449 right now, which is a lot more cost effective than buying a treadmill. That $2,000 plus entry point for a lot of these like home gym pieces can be a lot for somebody. So I love that it kind of a piece that's under $1,000 that you can have. It's really versatile, and that it can be in a small space. It can be in an apartment. It can be, you can have a couple in a house. You can take it to your backyard, and it's easy to assemble. It doesn't require that much maintenance. You replace the cords, there's not a lot that can go wrong with it. And so I feel like that's a really big differentiator from the home piece of equipment, but it also gives you a lot more than just buying a set of lightweights or just buying, a couple bands or a couple sliders. It really is such a unique piece that you can do balance on it. You can do stability. It's great for lymphatic drainage because of the way the G-force goes up and down on the trampoline, which is like a whole other conversation on. It's a wellness piece too, right? It doubles down as that. You can get your cardio in. It's great for proprioception. It's really good for pelvic floor for all of my moms because it mimics pelvic floor. So you get that contraction and that relaxation, which you need both. So like every bounce mimics like pelvic floor strength. So I could go on, obviously I'm biased, but I think it's just such an amazing tool, and you get so much for it for that under like $500 price point. Yeah. And then you do the classes. We have over 1,000 videos on demand. So you can kind of, all of them different, engage with the choreography that way. So I think that's what really sets us apart in terms of the home fitness space. And what sets us apart in the physical space, within New York is this like greater wellness community that we've built within the space of New York. And I think it's like such a special place. We've gone again for that dance studio vibe where you kind of walk in. Okay. These are my dance friends, these are my bounce friends. Like you come in, we try to get everyone to know each other. And if there's a connection to be made, we try to facilitate that to kind of help people in their jobs and in life. And, kind of that way of sharing information that we've lost a little bit because with social media, like now we have influencers to be like, I love this coffee. I love this eye patch. I love this hair thing, like you're like, great. But before that, it was like, again, for the girls by the girls. People at dinner being like, try this, like, like you have to try this. I'm going to this thing. And I think that still really happens in our space. And it's special. It's a lost art actually now.
It's true. No, it's true. On like one hand, you have recommendations at scale, and you also lose the specific micro referrals as well that we used to get just more organically in person. So I get that.
Yeah.
How many new classes are you adding to the app to online, say every month or every quarter?
We do 2 new classes every Monday. So it is a lot of content that we film throughout the year. And then we do programs throughout the year. So like longer, like we'll do a January challenge. We'll do a spring reset. We're doing something called mixtape now, which is kind of our October like playlist fun things like that to keep people engaged. So we'll drop like longer programs, and then they get unlimited live streams as well. Okay. So if you subscribe, you get the on demand, but you can also tune into any of our classes that are happening.
Got it. Okay.
The city.
Very cool. Very cool. Maybe kind of going back a bit to the origin and the founder story. So something that I find interesting is if you're a first-time founder or multiple-time founder, it's like, what had you be willing to take the risk to be a founder? And sometimes I find that is conviction. Sometimes it's a belief in your work. And the reality is that being a founder is no joke. There's a lot, and you had alluded to growth, unplanned growth, expected growth, but there's a lot of growing pains, both internally and externally. And so just kind of wanted to tap into that a little bit in terms of what you may have had to move through internally, or childhood influences that may have impacted your path, whether you realized it at the time or not.
Yeah. I think, it's for me, it's a couple answers. Number one would be strategic hubris, I think. Like cemented. I was like, I can do this better. Like, we were working at different studios and like different dance places. And I was like, I know I can do this better, And so like there's that, right? Where you're just like, I want to kind of make something and I want to go my own way and I want to have control over like what I feel like I can bring to life and over my career too. And like what I don't want to come up against roadblocks, I don't want to get this approved 4 times. Like I want to be the one to approve it and I want to see it come to life. So there's that part about it. So Allie and I kind of always knew we wanted our own thing. Like we would talk at these other places that we would work at and we would be like, but we didn't know what it was yet. We were just like, I think we can like make a really fun place. I just want a fun place. I want community. I want to make this place. So it kind of formed that way. And then sometimes your back's against the wall, right? Too, as a founder. And it's like survival, right? And I think like all of our founder stories, we all have our PR version that's like,
yes,
well, I saw this hole in the market and I wanted to fill it. But if we're being real, sometimes your back's against the wall and the company you work at is like selling or going under, and you're like, what am I going to do next? And sometimes the universe pushes you off that ledge.
That's right.
And if you have the confidence, again, the strategic hubris to be like, actually, I think I can do this on my own, like you end up doing something. So I feel like that's like the answer I'm going to go with today, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get that. And I think that's a real answer. And something I've always appreciated about you, Colette, is you're just real. And you're right. There's a PR version. There's like that one-liner version. Yeah. And the reality is that sometimes that is the choice in front of us. Obviously, we still have to take that action to go through it. And I get that too. For other founders out there, what would you say if you had like one learning moment, even from a pivot or a lesson that you would want to share? I'd be curious to hear that too.
One I think about a lot is because when you are a founder, you're doing things that you don't necessarily have expertise in. So maybe you're a great operator, right? And like a great trainer. I'll take myself for an example, but I'm not a great marketer. Like I really am not. I understand brands, but I'm not a performance marketer at all. It wasn't something that I had experience in when we started. And so my mistake, and I'll go on with the further story, was like not asking for help enough before entering into a certain like marketing engagement. Whereas like an expert could have really told me, don't do this. I don't see good return here. So we basically, entered into a brick and mortar retail space that wasn't our studio. We thought it was like really cool. It was really hypey. We were like, great, like a bunch of people will be able to see it in this. It was kind of like a multi-retailer, like a mall, like for like independent brands. And it was money, it was a lot of money to be in there, but you kind of like lie to yourself sometimes. And you're like, well, great, like it's worth it because it's kind of like this and like, we'll get this many views, but we actually didn't have, like the company wasn't able to provide all the KPIs in which they were going to promise, or like, well, 30,000 people, will touch the trampoline every day. We usually get X amount of sales or whatever. And they didn't have a way of even reporting that to us, but I didn't know to ask for that stuff before thinking about it and entering this thing, because I was like, I don't need to get a reference. Like, here's the deck. It looks great. And that was a huge mistake. It was a huge waste of money, which sometimes when you do market, it has to be an experiment, right? Like you never know. That's the thing. Like you don't know if it's going to be returns, but I do wish I had asked somebody else that worked in literally anybody else that worked in marketing or worked with them. Like, what do you think? How was your experience? Because I think post doing this, a lot of people came together and they were like, oh no, this was not worth it. And this company is now, no longer. And so that could have saved us,
yes,
a boatload of marketing money. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I remember the highlights of that story, and that's a very raw and honest story to share. So
yeah. And you kind of just got to be like, I just lost us thousands of dollars and I need to move on, and
it's very humbling because you have to forgive yourself for that to be able to move on, and you need to move on. So I get that.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess maybe just to wrap up, when you share about trampoline-based movement, it sounds irresistible. Like if someone is new and they've heard it for the first time or they saw a clip, it just, all the different benefits is such a no-brainer. And so I'm curious, when a new person goes through, they find your app, they're experiencing your online classes, what's the average stickiness or retention that you're seeing right now? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it even longer?
We have found if we can move people past the 3-month mark, we have them for years.
Amazing.
Years to come.
Years.
Yeah. So that's what we've found in our current state. I don't think that's giving away too much. Do you think that's giving away too much? No. Yeah.
No, I think it's you can always like slice and dice. I mean, I would say that across the board with other app-based models, we do find that the sensitivity mark is 3 months and 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
However, in a very competitive space like fitness offerings, I would say that, unless you're truly differentiated, it's hard to get folks to stick around for years, right? And so that's why I'm curious. And if beyond that 3-month mark, stickiness, like sticking around for years, like that's a huge win, at least from what we see it. So I support that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's our hump is the education, right? Around the trampoline. It requires a lot of education. It does require a lot of convincing. People think they're going to fall. They think they're going to pee. They're like, think it looks, they think they can't do it. So we battle that. So once we can kind of move them past that, it's like they stay for life because their lives are completely changed. The way they feel about their bodies and look and approach their workouts completely different.
Ooh, I love that. And actually, that would be a great note to wrap up on. Like, how do you find what's been effective and what's been effective in educating your customers now? Because you're right, like thinking that they're going to fall, that's a real concern. And so it's like, how are you effectively nurturing them, educating them, and then getting them to raise their hand and be willing to give it a shot?
Great question that we are still working on, I would say. We don't have the answers quite yet. Organic social media always helps, just kind of like putting short form video content out of like, it's actually quite low. You're not you don't have to jump really high. So kind of showing the more simple version of the trampoline, but then also organic celebrity and organic influencer, right? People having kind of that social capital people trust, but then making sure all of this doesn't matter if you don't have, which we've talked about together, if you don't have the funnels in place to catch inbounds, like it doesn't matter. You can scale as much, you can put as much money into trying to scale as you want. If you don't have retention in place, like you literally are dumping water out onto the table. And that's a mistake we learned too, because our growth was unexpected. So we weren't ready to like, hang on. We didn't have the systems in place. Like all of a sudden we just had all these subscribers and we didn't have the systems in place to like keep them and educate them on that, which we are actually working on now. So I think like having a good email, having good email there to catch people, SEO, blog content, the scaling and the marketing is like really similar to a life well lived in that like you can't hack your way out of good sleep, good nutrition, and exercise, period. Yeah. Those are the pillars. And I think it's the same for marketing. It's like you can't growth hack your way out of solid email marketing, SEO, like all of like the foundations. Like you can't hack it and people are going to try to tell you that you can. And
that's so good. For someone who says they're not a marketer, that is so well said. Like a life that's so well said. We're going to pull this quote out.
Yeah, pull it. It.
So good. So good. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to share this with our audience, and it's going to get connected to LinkedIn, to Instagram. It's going to get out to all the places.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.